around every corner of Connecticut, and the seasons too, and every season. I'm sorry,
that's okay.
The name, but
that's close enough. 100 towns to explore every season.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So, and with that, thank you, Sarah, for
All
being
right,
here.
thank you so much. Thank you, everybody. And I have to note that I've been here for a story before. It was years ago. I was working for Fox 61. It was at least 10 years ago, if not more. But when I pulled in here, I was like, oh yeah, I've been here. I think it was a genealogy story. Yeah. But I really appreciate you coming. I interviewed Jay right here from the Friends of the Hugh Blind Tower for my book. So thank you very much for coming. And that's, I think, how this event happened. I've been here reporting on the news since 1998 and did a lot of tourism reporting over my career. I have done. So I really just reached a point in my life where I wanted to accomplish the goal of writing a book. And when I walked into the publishers and had my first meeting, I had thought, you know, what can I really do? What can I do that's not overwhelming? What can I wrap my arms around? What do I know? And it really was the tourism scene here. But I will say that I put everything down, like pen to paper, you know, working away on my laptop. I put down everything that I wanted to include where I'd been, my favorite places, and it wasn't enough. So I went around and found new places, one of them here in Simsbury that we'll talk about, and really kind of, you know, extended my career and my expertise finding new places as well. So it was a lot of fun. And the book took me about a year to write. It became Around Every Corner of Connecticut. It was the publisher's idea to make it 100 towns to explore. And I thought it would be fun to break those 100 towns into the 4 seasons, give people kind of unique ideas to do with things around the state. And we begin here with this presentation in the winter section. And this is in my hometown, which is Essex. That's where I live now. It's the Essex Steam Train and Riverboat. I put it in the winter section. I think Essex is so known for the summer. It's on the Connecticut River. Folks have boats there. We do. But I put this in the winter section because it's just become such an amazing event in our little town that brings thousands of people every holiday season. Huge tourism, you know, experience for the state, for the town with this event. I like to joke that it's become like getting the Taylor Swift ticket. It's become, you know, a really hard ticket to get. In my day, when we took the boys, we would like call and call and call to get through. Now you got to refresh. But just thousands of people do it and love it. They do a really nice job. This is Essex in the winter time, down at the foot of the village where the Connecticut River Museum is. And speaking of the River Museum, they do a really lovely train display every winter as well. So it makes kind of the whole train experience in Essex really full circle. It's created by an artist named Steve Cryan. Steve is a neat guy. He also plays in a band that plays at the Griswold Inn. He does tours aboard the Crosstown Ferry, which we're going to talk about. And this is just a very small snippet of the display. It's huge, and it's filled with little jokes and an I Spy. My kids loved it. My son Sam was really into trains, and we would go like 20 times a season. We're moving now to the little town next door, Chester. I love Chester. Chester is like, to me, like a little Vermont town nestled here in Connecticut. There's a really interesting art installation downtown. It is an old-timey phone booth, wishing booth. And really you just kind of like say your dreams and wishes into the phone, into the booth. And you know, the thought is that by putting them out there, you're just putting good into the world and you're doing something for yourself. It's become very popular and people really like it. Most winters since the pandemic, this little town has also been festooned in these stars. They were born out of the pandemic as a way for people to kind of dedicate a star to a loved one. I'm thinking about you. And it stuck, but the artist who makes them didn't make them this year. So we'll see, didn't put them up. So we'll see if it comes back next year. I hope it does because it's very charming. But the wishing booth is there. All right, we're moving now to Deep River to the Pandemonium Rainforest. This is a really interesting location that not a lot of people know about. The woman who started it is Allison Sloan. She had a flower shop in the area called Ashley's Garden, and she started to rescue animals, mostly exotic birds, and keep them in the back of her flower shop. And you would go in to buy flowers and you'd like hear them. And I did a story there once, and I went, she took me back to see them, and it was just this filled with birds. So she outgrew that space and bought an old ivory mill in Deep River. So, at one point this building was used for like the cruelty of animals, and now it's being brought full circle to help rescue animals. So she moved there and she made it a giant thrift shop. And this picture doesn't really do it justice. Like, sure, there's clothes, but there's like everything. It's huge, and there's everything you could imagine. All kinds of great furniture. There's a little book area. There's a cafe. They bring in bands on the weekends. They've got the grounds all set up that you can see the animals now. So it's really become kind of a destination in the area. Treasure hunting, thrifting has become so popular. It's a neat place. Welcome.
Hello.
Thanks for coming. Of course, a wonderful thing to do in the late winter here in Connecticut is experience maple syrup being made from start to finish. And at Bushy Hill Nature Center in Ivoryton, in this whole neck of the woods, you can see the process from tapping the trees to boiling the sap in this great little shack. Kids love to see this. It smells great. It's just a really great example of Mother Nature. And being, you can kind of enjoy the outdoors in the late winter when you're ready to be outside. All right, this is your quintessential New England town. It is Litchfield. And I put it in the winter section because I just think it's such a great spot to holiday shop and explore. It's so pretty in the snow. Great shops and restaurants downtown, but a real gem for our state in Litchfield is the White Memorial. It's 4,000 acres of just beautiful land. In the winter, you can cross-country ski or snowshoe. They have a great natural history museum on site that really rivals some of the museums in the cities. It's incredible. And in the nice weather, obviously, it's a place to visit any time of year. In the nice weather, you can breathe in the fresh air. You can hear the birds chirping. It is really an incredible place in our state. In that area near Litchfield is the little town of Bethlehem. And of course, every winter they have the nativity scene out on the town green. And what I learned about Bethlehem while doing this story, while writing this book, was that folks love to bring their holiday cards to Bethlehem and have them stamped there in the post office so their recipients receive their card from Bethlehem. Very cute town. All right, we're moving now to Bradley Mountain Farm in Southington. I thought that the pandemic was, post-pandemic, was a really interesting time to write this book because different destinations had sort of adopted different practices. Some of them stuck, like online tours, drive-through ticketing, things like that. And the Bradley Mountain Farm came to be because of the pandemic. So this wonderful woman who owns it, Annalise Dadris, had started, getting the goats on the property after she bought it. And she really felt in the pandemic like people needed connection. They needed to be able to visit with something, visit with an animal out in the fresh air. So she began inviting folks to the farm. And now you can do a huge variety of things there. You can take a full moon hike with a goat. You can make goat milk soap. You can do goat yoga. I took my son Ben to do the Barn Babies program, which is really just sitting in the barn and holding baby goats, and it's pretty awesome. So it's a neat place. And I also, in this book, in addition to a lot of tourism reporting, I've done a lot of reporting on folks with special needs. So I think what makes this book a little bit different, it's not like your expected tourism book. It's more like personal stories and interviews with people. And I focus a lot on places that are accessible and have, good opportunities for folks with special needs. And this is one of them. Annalise works with a lot of kids with autism when they need to be with an animal in kind of a non-judgmental space. I think we're really lucky in Connecticut to have 4 really wonderful small ski resorts. We're not talking about Vermont. You're not going to have a huge ski experience, but they're wonderful places for our local kids to learn how to ski, to go after school on a half day, and for families to get out and experience skiing together on the weekends. We've got Southington, Powder Ridge, Mount Mohawk, and Sundown. I've done many stories at all of them, and they're really great places. Now, I am not suggesting that you do this at one of our local ski resorts. This is a professional. This is Jump Fest in Salisbury. It happens every February, and it's just such a unique event. The woman, Janet Sarah, that I interviewed about Jump Fest just said it's convivial. You go, you see these incredible, world-class athletes. There are bonfires, there's hot cocoa. It's really just a fun thing to do in the middle of the winter when you need to get out. Nothing takes you into a Christmas carol, right? Like a sleigh ride. So you can take a classic sleigh ride at Allegra Farm in East Haddam. And Allegra Farm is owned by a great guy named John Allegra. He's really interesting because he rents his sleighs and carriages to movie sets and TV sets. If you're watching The Gilded Age on HBO, he's been in that actually and has his carriages in that show. Little Women, The Greatest Showman. And there's a little museum on site. So if you are able to catch one of these sleigh rides, which he does sort of spontaneously when the snow flies. But if you're able to catch one, you can see this little museum on property that shows all of the different movies. It's really neat. This is his carriage. He brings them out to events like the Pumpkin Festival in Ivoryton. That's where I took this picture. All right, we're moving now into Winstead and the American Mural Project, which is also called AMP. Has anyone been there before? No? It's a really neat place. It's in an old mill building. It's called the largest indoor collaborative piece of artwork in the entire world. It's 120 feet by 5 stories tall, and you can kind of get that effect if you focus on the right side of the photo and see all the different floors. This, again, I just loved the people like Jay, who I met and learned about as I wrote this book. Ellen Griesedick is one of them. She is the woman that created this mural. She had students and art groups from all over the country make pieces of it and then ship it to her, and she and her team have assembled it. It highlights these people that you can see. They're farmers, they're truckers, they're firefighters, they're policemen. They're really people who make our country go round and tell the American story. And if you go up to this person and say, who's that? Like Ellen will tell you his whole story from start to finish. And some of these people visit AMP. The governor has been to AMP. Ellen is trying to be very outspoken about it being a place that's pushing the arts and preserving the arts in our state for our future generations. Neat place. All right, we're moving now into the spring section of the book to Washington, Connecticut, and this is Hollister House Garden. Hollister House Garden is the recreation of a unique English garden right here in Connecticut. It features kind of garden rooms. You can go from space to space. They're different. You can bring a picnic basket and have a meal. My friend Melissa and I have done that before together. That's where I got these pictures. And if you're into gardens, or just want to find a little peace in nature, it's a really beautiful place to see. And in that neck of the woods is Kent. This is Kent Falls. I loved sort of taking pictures and discovering some of the waterfalls in our state as I wrote this book. Kent is also home to the Eric Sloan Museum, which shows the remnants of the Kent iron furnace. It's a really neat little town. Great independent bookstore there as well. Now we're moving into Guilford. This, I believe, is the only opportunity to take like a tourism tour, have a tourism experience aboard a Segway in the state. Has anyone been on a Segway before? Yes? Kiara has, Jeff has. It's not as hard as it looks. You kind of find your sweet spot and you're fine. But that's Rich Petrillo in the front. He's a character. He takes you through the Guilford Town Green, shares some history, some war history, then takes you down, speeds you down to the Little Red Shack, which is a real iconic spot on the Guilford shoreline. It's one of our state's most photographed and painted buildings. And he does a nice job. It's a nice opportunity to learn some shoreline history and do it, in a somewhat fast way because of the segue. We're moving now to Dudley Farm in Guilford. I'm from Concord, Massachusetts, which is very historic, home of lots of the authors, Louisa May Alcott. There's Walden Pond, there's the North Bridge. So history is something that I just find is kind of in my blood. It's just something I find really interesting. So I found a little historic gems as I puttered around for the book. Dudley Farm is really cool. You walk in the door, it's set up just as if a family lived there. It's all authentic items inside the house from the shoreline area, from Guilford. They have a melodeon that's a cross between an organ and a piano, and they'll play it for you. It's pretty cool if you want to hear it. They also have animals on site and great gardens. So it's a neat kind of, I don't think, very well-known spot in Guilford. We're moving now to Windsor Locks and the New England Air Museum, which is just a fabulous place, filled with historic, amazing aircraft. And I feel like, a lot of people in the state have been there at some time or the other. So I like to focus on a fairly new exhibit about the Tuskegee Airmen. They, of course, were the African-American heroes of World War II who were facing racism as they fought for our country. And this is a great exhibit. They have interviews with these amazing men. I was able to interview one of them when the exhibit opened. He has since passed just in the last few months. But they've got, different uniforms and different artifacts from that time. Very well done. We're moving now to New Britain and the New Britain Museum of American Art. And I told you that, one of my passions sort of with the book was talking about accessibility. And this location impressed me so much with the way they want it to be accessible for everyone. They have wheelchairs on site that you can borrow if you need one. They have tours available in Polish, Spanish, Braille. They stay open into the evening to accommodate folks who work 9 to 5. They give discounts and free days for New Britain residents. They really just want people in the door to appreciate the world-class art. It's located on Walnut Park, and they really want people to walk the park, enjoy the outdoors, then go inside and experience some of the art on the walls, which is incredible. We're moving into Stonington now, the other part of the state, which is, to me, like Essex or Litchfield, like just one of those sort of quintessential New England gems here in our state. And I want you to remember the red lighthouse that's on that wine label. Just keep it in your mind. We're going to be talking about it. But Stonington has become home to several vineyards and wineries, places where you can take dinner, sample some local spirits, have a really nice afternoon for yourself up in a beautiful town. The Lighthouse Museum is also right in the downtown of Stonington, tells a really nice summary of our shoreline history, our maritime history. And, Stonington is just a place where you can sit on a bench and gaze over to incredible Watch Hill in Rhode Island, wave to Taylor Swift in the Ocean House, and breathe in some fresh air. The town is awesome. You can get a nice meal. You can do some shopping. It makes for a really nice day, in the nice weather particularly. All right, we're moving now to Old Newgate Prison in East Granby, which I had never been before. It was closed for much of my tourism reporting years when I worked for Fox 61. It was closed for renovations. It had reopened, and I went there for this book. I brought my 17-year-old son with me. I mean, a 17-year-old boy young man is hard to entertain, right? He loved it. He thought it was so cool, and we had a really good time. I'll tell you what it is. You probably know, but it's designated a National Historic Landmark, recognized as the first chartered copper mine and first state prison in all of North America. It became a prison in the 1770s. So when you get there, it's cool, but it's kind of what you would expect. You self-guide through the prison yard. But the real wow factor is that you can take a tour down into the copper mine now. It's a 30-minute guided tour. It goes through a 100-yard underground loop. You go 75 feet below the surface. It is 52 degrees down there. It is cold. It is wet. It is dark. You're really brought into it's super cool to see, but they also do a really nice job there of bringing home the inhumane quality of it. That men, and at that time, there were boys that were 14, chained up down there in these really terrible conditions. So really just a very unique place. The woman that I interviewed about it said, there's no place else like it in the state, and really there's no place else like it in the country. It's a very unique spot. We're moving now into Old Wethersfield. I told you that I love history. This is a very historical, a site of historical significance here in our state. It's the Webdean Stevens Museum, which is made up of 3 homes spanning 3 centuries. This is the Joseph Webb House from 1752. George Washington met with General Rochambeau here, and that led to a meeting that led to the end. That was a meeting that led to the end of the American Revolution. So very interesting history. Old Wethersfield has the Charles Restaurant. You can get a great meal. You can poke around at some of the other historic homes, do some shopping. It's a lovely area. All right, we're finishing this section with one of my favorite places that I visited for the book, and this is Wicked Tulips in Preston. Has anyone been to Wicked Tulips? No one's been to Wicked Tulips? Oh, have you not even been?
I think we tried to go with the parking. There was something with like the ticket and the parking.
Okay.
So we didn't go.
I wanted you to go one year and you didn't go with me. It's really, really neat, guys. It's coming up. It's just a couple weeks every year. The first year, they've only been open a couple years, and the first year you could show up and get on site. Now you can't. You have to reserve your time slot online ahead of time. It's just beautiful. At the end of the winter, start of the spring, when you need that burst of color, it is here. Everyone is smiling. Everyone's taking pictures. Speaking of pictures, I took probably 80% of the photographs in the book myself, and this is one of my favorites. But Wicked Tulips, they have a couple of farms. There's one in Rhode Island as well. It's owned by a man that grew up a tulip farmer in the Netherlands, and he married a woman from Boston, hence the name Wicked Tulips. And they give you like a chip, and you're allowed to cut a certain amount of flowers. And it's just a really lovely experience. I've been a couple times, and I've enjoyed it every time. And something that's kind of interesting to note, which threw me off, they don't want tulips to grow in the same place every year. So every time you go, it's set up a little bit differently in a different part of the field and looks different. So it's a different experience year to year. All right, the buoys signify our moving into summer here in the presentation. And we begin in New London, which is one of our transportation hubs in the state. I love this picture, and it shows I really love lighthouses. I think that they're just so cool and have these, romantic stories around them and are just fascinating to me. And this is one of my favorite lighthouses in the state. It's the New London Ledge Lighthouse from 1909. What I think is so cool about it, you can take a boat out there and take a tour of it. And a lot of lighthouses are kind of small, right? They're like the spark plug design. This is a big colonial home in the middle of the water. And when you walk from room to room and get that sensation that you're surrounded by water, it's very unique. This lighthouse has a very famous ghost story attached to it, and there's a room that is dedicated in there to the ghost story. Apparently, it is haunted by a man named Ernie, who was the lighthouse keeper, and he threw himself to his death after his wife ran away with the ferry boat captain that would flirt with her when he would pass by taking people on the ferry. So very interesting kind of well-known spot in the state. And speaking of the ferry, and I referenced it earlier when I talked about Steve Cryan, the artist in Old Saybrook. When the Crosstown Ferry now is not in use going across to Long Island, they've put it to use on these shorter tours. Has anyone taken one? It's really neat. Go on their website and see. They do a fall foliage tour. They do an offshore lighthouse tour. And it's just like you get your money's worth. Like you go out, it's kind of fast. It's a fast ferry, so you're like spinning around these lighthouses. You're getting narration, you're learning. You have a couple hours on the water. They are really nice tours. I recommend them. All right, we can't talk about this area without talking about the Mystic Aquarium. Spent so much time there with my sons as they were growing up. And what I like to focus on a little bit, because they're kind of new and interesting and different, is the encounter programs that the aquarium is offering. You will never forget an encounter program with the beluga whale. It's pretty amazing. They also offer encounters with sea lions, with penguins, and I find that they make really good gifts, like for teen kids or whatever, somebody that's hard to buy for. This just knocks it out of the park. It's very cool. Mystic Seaport is a wonderful place, kind of like a little Sturbridge Village here on the water in our state. And what I love about the Seaport is that, you know, not everyone can just easily get out on the water. Not everyone has a boat, right? But at the Seaport, you can spend a few extra dollars and find a variety of ways to get out on the water. They will rent you a rowboat. You can take like this water taxi down into Mystic now. And they also offer a ride aboard the Sabino. The Sabino was out of commission for a couple years, being worked on, but it is back. It's a really unique little like ferry boat and one of the only left of its kind in the country, and it has a really neat story that you can look up. But when I did my stories on it, it was powered by coal, which was cool. And apparently now, since it's come back after the couple-year restoration, it is no longer powered by coal. They were having trouble finding people to operate it. But it still is a really cool little trip out in the water from the Mystic Seaport. Just down the way from the Seaport is the Argia. And the Argia is a replica schooner. The crew is great. They're so knowledgeable. They take you out for day sails, afternoon sails. They teach you how to hoist the sails. They do a lot of sort of, talk about what life was like on the water in the 1800s and a long time ago. And I love this picture because it shows two of my favorite things in this area that are so different. So the Argia is kind of your classic experience, and this here next to it is the Mystic Boat Adventures, which is super duper fun. So like the encounter programs, this does not disappoint. I took my teen boys out, that's my son Sam, and they loved it. You don't just have the boat to do with what you want. It's kind of a follow the leader situation where the tour guide has the boat in the front, and there are maybe about 8 boats following him behind. He takes you through Mystic Seaport. He's a real character as well. His name is Rob. Takes you through the seaport, teaches you some interesting facts, then takes you out into the open water where you can speed around and really like put the pedal to the metal and see what this little boat can do. My boys loved it. That's my husband Paul and my son Ben. It was a big hit. It's located in Noank, right near Abbott's and Costello's. So you can go out and then have a nice meal and do some sightseeing. And I like to include this picture in the presentation because it's a unique spot that you can really only see from the water. And I wanted you to kind of know about it if you ever get out on one of those boat trips and see it. It's the Morgan Point Lighthouse. It was owned by a man named Jason Palalis, who just passed away in the last couple of years. I was lucky enough to meet him and go inside. About 20 years ago, the government started selling off the lighthouses to private buyers because they just weren't in use anymore and they were so expensive to maintain. And this is one that Jason bought. And he built that addition off to the right. Fabulous summer home for his family. The whole little village of Noank was involved when they brought the new light tower in on a crane. Big news for that area. And this lighthouse actually has a twin down in the Norwalk area on Sheffield Island. So if you ever go by this, it's right in that Noank neck of the woods. You will know a little bit about the Morgan Point Lighthouse. Really neat place. All right, we're moving now to Waterford and Harkness, which is such a special spot in our state. Has anyone, I imagine somebody has been to Harkness? Yeah? Isn't it gorgeous? Yeah. I'm just going to read a little bit about it. The mansion is called Eolia. It was the summer home. I'm not finding my page. It was the summer home of the Harkness family. Oh, here we go. The mansion is a Roman Renaissance revival mansion set on a spectacular piece of land that spans more than 230 acres of lawns, gardens, and panoramic views of Long Island Sound. Like White Memorial up in Litchfield, this is just a very special place that we have here in our state. It's beautiful. Thimble Island's one of my favorite spots in the state as well. In Branford, there are 25 inhabited islands, sporting 95 homes. There's a great guy, Captain Mike Infantino, who takes folks out on the sea mist and tours the Thimbles. And on Captain Mike's trips, there is something for everyone. He will tell a little pirate treasure story for kids. He tells you all about kind of the homeowners and life on the islands for the adults. The Thimbles are super duper cool. And in the winter, you can even get out to take some seal watching tours on the Thimbles. I love to see seals. I get kind of geeky about it. I think it's so cool. I want you to keep in mind that island in the back of that picture, because we're going to be talking about it, and it was something that always fascinated me, and I kind of got to the bottom of it while writing this book. All right, so in the summertime, we hear a lot about Tanglewood, right, in the Berkshires, which is wonderful. But I think sometimes we forget that we have wonderful music festivals right here in the state. There's the Yale Chamber Music Festival and Music Mountain. Yale is in Norfolk, and Music Mountain is in the Canaan Falls Village area. You can really hear some wonderful world-class music in the summertime in both of these two locations. Very, very popular. All right, we're moving to another part of the state now, down to Norwalk. This is the Maritime Aquarium. Again, a place I spent a ton of time with my kids when they were little. And the Maritime Aquarium sports a shark tank that never disappoints. Everybody loves the shark tank. It is mesmerizing. This area of Norwalk, it's called South Norwalk, they call it Sono, has become really trendy and fun. Lots of restaurants, lots of good shopping down there. It's also home to Stepping Stones Museum right near the aquarium. They do a really nice job telling the kind of prehistoric dinosaur history of our state. Kids love it there. So I enjoy that area of South Norwalk. It's become very cool. And in the little village of Rowayton, which is a part of Norwalk, is another lighthouse I'm kind of taken with. It's the Greens Ledge Lighthouse. And this was one that really was kind of crumbling into the sea and needed saving. So a man there in town named Tim Petty rallied the folks in Rowayton together, raised $2.5 million. This is offshore, so they had to bring barges out to redo it. It is incredible now inside. They really want it to be, he was really neat in saying that its first 100 years were about keeping people on the water safe, and its next 100 years is about education. They invite student groups in to learn about solar panels, making your own water, marine life. You can spend the night. It's all done inside with beautiful rooms, a room to each floor. You can spend the night. It's pricey, but it goes to supporting the lighthouse and its future. So it's a really neat place, and they do a few open houses through the summer and the fall if you would like to just have an open house day, go in and poke around. All right, I'm a big fan of the Connecticut beaches, and this is my favorite. This is Harvey's Beach in Old Saybrook. I look online and time it up mostly by going at low tide, because it's just these incredible flats where you can walk. In the off season, the dogs can run. And kind of like what I was saying about Mystic Seaport, like not everybody can get on the water, and many of our beaches are only available to people who live right there or live in the beach association. But Harvey's is one that anyone can go to. You can pay about $20 and get in. They've got a food truck. They've got facilities. It's a really lovely beach that anyone can go to here in the state. Right down from Harvey's Beach is the Old Saybrook Mini Golf, which is right there on the point by the inn in Old Saybrook. You're surrounded by water. You can kind of see the water in the corner of that photo. This is just a great experience. It's so beautiful. The sea breeze is blowing. The views are incredible. You know, it's a mini golf course for kids through adults. It's a fun night. You can hit the beach. You can hit a great restaurant in Old Saybrook. You can play a little golf. This is the lighthouse right off of Fenwick in Old Saybrook. Fenwick is the neighborhood where Katharine Hepburn lived. You can drive through it and you can see her incredible home. Beautiful spot in Old Saybrook. All right, we're moving now into Killingworth and Lavender Pond Farm. Lavender Pond Farm is a really unique place that is basically, you know, alive with purple, alive with lavender all summer long. And the woman who started this experience was inspired by a children's book about Miss Rumphius. And that book was really just about making the world a more beautiful place. So she just wants to make this peaceful spot where people can go and enjoy the flowers. There's a great little gift shop. There's like a life-size chess set for kids. There's actually a little train that kids can ride on as well. She does a really nice job. It's a special place in Killingworth. So I feel so attached to the Connecticut River living down in Essex, but you guys are probably more attached to this area. We're on the Farmington River now in Collinsville. And at Collinsville Canoe and Kayak, you can, again, just pay a couple bucks and get out on the water on a stand-up paddleboard, on a kayak, on a canoe, and enjoy a beautiful day seeing the wildlife in that area. Collinsville is, of course, a place, again, that has ice cream and cute restaurants and antiquing, cute shops, nice place to explore. I was impressed with this little area that I found while writing this book. It's in East Windsor. It's called Museums on the Green. And what they did there was take several different historic buildings and move them all to the green to be together, to become like another little Sturbridge village. So you can see an old-timey barber shop, which is really cute and charming. You can see an old school, and there's also a home that you can go into and again see all authentic items from the area from the olden days. All right, I told you we'd be back to this island. Anyone have a guess? Anyone know what it is? No? This is Faulkner's Island off the coast of Guilford. So I'll just tell you, I used to go to Guilford for stories, and you kind of in Guilford stand in a parking lot, you know, at the end of the road where you're facing the water. And I would look out there and I would be like, what is that? It fascinated me. I was like, I need to find out. I'm very curious. That's why I'm a reporter. So for this book, I found out. Faulkner's Island is 3.5 miles offshore. The lighthouse was built in 1802. It's Connecticut's second oldest lighthouse tower. And what's really kind of cool about this location is that it's hard to get to and not that frequently visited. So it can seem calm on the shore in Guilford, and you get out, you know, those 3.5 miles, and it can be very wavy and windy out there. So it's often hard for people to dock on the island. There's a great group called the Faulkner's Light Brigade, almost like your group, Jay, that takes care of this area. And while I was writing the book, ironically, they did an open house and got folks out there. And the last one before this one, so that was 2 summers ago, was 2007. So they don't get people on this island very often. And what they did for the open house was have people bring their own boats, anchor, and shuttled them in. So it's just a really interesting kind of elusive, mysterious place right off of our shore that I was really delighted to be able to see. And there's more pictures and more information about it in the book. All right, the apples signify us moving into our last season, which is fall. And we begin on the Hadlime Ferry, which is on the National Register of Historic Places. I love this ferry. It's like taking a little, 10-minute vacation, and it really does very effectively get you from point A to point B. You get to see Gillette's Castle along the way, which is one of our very significant spots, tourism spots here in the state. And it does take you over to East Haddam, which is home to Ray of Light Farm. Ray of Light Farm is a very charming, very special little place owned by a woman named Bonnie Bonjourne. Her initial mission was to rescue donkeys, mini horses, and horses, but she's actually rescued a lot of other animals as well. And she does a lot of programs, again, for kids with autism, veterans with PTSD. She really does good work, and it's a special place. All right. This is the Florence Griswold Museum. Wonderful to visit all year round. They also do a very nice Christmas program every year. But I included it in the fall section because of the fairy houses. Every year they have this incredible fairy house display where artists build magical little fairy houses into the landscape of along the Lieutenant River there in the museum's backyard. It is so charming. And while I think it's thought to be for children, or that's how it started, It really is for everybody because they're such incredible little works of art. And I like to joke that when I was last there doing a story for News 8, there was like a bunch of 40-something women celebrating a birthday, wearing fairy wings, drinking wine, like having a great time at the fairy houses. So it's very, very special. All right. This is one of my favorite things to share. Is anyone aware of the Swallow Spectacular? You are? Have you seen it? Yeah. It's along the Connecticut River down in my neck of the woods at the end of every summer. And I would say when I did my first story about it, probably like 10 years ago, not that many people knew about it. But it's definitely grown and people bring their boats out now pretty regularly at that time of year to see it. And what happens is just, you can see the specks of black right around sunset. Swallows start flying in from all directions. Millions of them, really. They come flying in and eventually form kind of a storm cloud over the reeds. And they put on this incredible show that's like, you know, nature's fireworks kind of thing. They swirl around, it moves, they dip, they rise. It's really an amazing thing to see. And then all at the same time, basically like in one line, they drop into the reeds, whoomp, to go to sleep for the night. It's only there, they move on, they migrate, as we get into the fall. So it's only there in the late summer. It has become kind of a tourism event. The Connecticut River Museum offers 2 different boats that can take you out to see it. They put their historic schooner, the Onrust, out there, as well as the River Quest, more of a tour boat. But it's become very popular. If you want to see it, reserve those tickets early. But I recommend it. It's something like you'll never see again. I really enjoy it. All right, I don't have to talk too much about Simsbury because here we are. But I will say thank you to Jay. He gave me a really nice interview about the tower. You guys do amazing work preserving it and all of that, yeah. And while I was in Simsbury taking this picture, learning a little bit more, I found the Old Drake Bridge, which I hadn't known about. And I thought it was so cute. And was it closed this past summer while it was being worked on?
It's reopened now.
Is it reopened now? Okay, yeah. I love it. Do you guys all love it? Do you go take pictures and stuff? Yeah. Very sweet, charming spot. I enjoyed it. All right, so like the Bradley Mountain Goat Farm, where you can do goat yoga, you can go to Rowanwood Farm in Newtown and take a llama hike. And just like goat yoga, there's not too much to it other than you hike with a llama. And that's my friend Ben, my son Ben. He's an animal lover, so this was a gift for him to go on one of these llama hikes, and we had a great time. We made friends with our llama. They didn't spit on us, and we really enjoyed learning. You know, the whole thing is like you bond with an animal, you learn about them. It makes hiking a little bit more interesting. All right, if you haven't been to New Haven in a while, I just wanted to put it back in the forefront of your mind because it really is an amazing cultural spot here in our state. You can go to the Yale Art Gallery and see Van Goghs, Monets, just incredible works of art. You can go across the street to the British Museum of Art, make it a twofer. They're very close in proximity to one another. And if you haven't been to the Peabody Museum in a while, go back because they just reopened after a 4-year renovation and it is fabulous. And the really great thing is that now it's free. So head back if you haven't been in a while. You will not be sorry. And we can't talk about New Haven anymore without talking about parties and pizza. This is the party bike. A man named Colin Kaplan started that. He also started a pedal boat with a similar concept out of Milford, Connecticut. But it's just, you can pedal around in downtown, have some spirits, have some pizza, have some fun. And the pizza tours along Worcester Street, Worcester Square, have become very, very popular in New Haven as well. All right, we're moving into Lebanon now for just another little touch of history before we finish up here. Lots of history in Lebanon. Again, this is a place that George Washington supposedly visited. Governor Trumbull turned his store into a supply house during the Revolutionary War. Lots of Jonathan Trumbull homes in Lebanon that are really interesting to see. And I did learn an interesting fact while I was in Lebanon. You all know the name of the Yukon Husky, right? We're all talking about Yukon these days. It's Jonathan. That was after Jonathan Trumbull. Did you guys know that? Yeah. Little known fact from Sarah. This is one of the more, like Old Newgate Prison, one of the more just sort of fascinating places that I found while writing my book. And I have my dad to thank for this one. I lost my dad in 2019, but he was a very cultured, very smart man. And he always would say to me, Sarah, have you been to Weir Farm? You got to get down to Weir Farm. Has anyone in here been there, by the way? Oh, you got to get down there. It's an amazing place. And so I lost him in 2019 and I had never been there before, and I kept disappointing him that I hadn't been there. And so when I started writing the book, I said, Dad, I got to get to Weir Farm. And it did not disappoint. It is the only national park dedicated to the art of Impressionist painting. It's the home of J. Alden Weir. He lived there from the 1880s to the 1919. He's considered a pioneer in American Impressionism painting. What he did was invite his contemporaries to paint in plein air in what he believed to be the perfect setting, which was his 68-acre farm. It was designated a national park in 1990 after a 15-year grassroots effort by art enthusiasts, local folks, and museum curators, and they've put a tremendous effort into keeping it authentic. There are 2 incredible art studios on site. They're set up inside just as if somebody was working in there. They're so charming. You can walk the grounds. This is a mobile art studio on wheels that he would take to different places on the property. They give you a brochure that's called Walk the Artscape. And in the brochure, it shows a famous painting that was painted there. And you can walk to that spot and say, oh, the lighting is different today, or it looks just the same, or something has changed. Like, it's a really interesting way to immerse yourself in the art there. They also invite you, there's walking trails, there's a pond. They also invite you to touch a reproduction of one of his paintings. And they want you to do that so that you understand the brush strokes and the depth of paint, the layers that are involved in Impressionism. Very, very interesting place. And I did, I think I had always thought of Impressionism with Monet and France and water lilies. I really enjoyed, while writing this book, learning about the Impressionist history right here in our state, at Weir Farm, at the Florence Griswold Museum, and also at the Bush Holly House Museum in Greenwich. We've got to talk a little bit about antiquing. Woodbury is a great place to do that. And Woodbury is also home to the Glebe House, which is an interesting historic home. It has a rich history that revolves around the Episcopal Church here in the state. It also features a one-of-a-kind English garden with an interesting story attached to. So if you're into gardens, look up the Glebe House. You would want to check it out. All right, we're moving into Norwich now. I did a little project in Norwich last year and got to know the city pretty well. And it's a really interesting place in our state. It's really a place where tons of different cultures have come together. And it's home of the Norwich Free Academy. And on the Norwich Free Academy, which is a high school, on their campus is the Slater Museum. The Slater Museum is beautiful. I mean, the building is beautiful, as you can see in that photo. It originally was a place that showed reproductions of famous Greek Roman statues, but it's become a place that really shows even more than that. Ellis Ruley was a Norwich artist who lived in Norwich his whole life, didn't have any fame in his life, but is famous now. And considered one of the most significant African-American folk artists of his time. They have a really neat Ellis Ruley exhibit, who's someone worth learning about. They also have a Norwich Made and Connecticut Made section. I really like the Slater Museum. It's got just a really interesting vibe. All right, we're finishing up the presentation now with my favorite hike that I took while writing the book. This is to Sleeping Giant State Park in Hamden. Sleeping Giant is just a really doable hike. It's not too steep. It's got this nice defined path. Takes about a half hour to get to the top. You see incredible flowers and rock formations. When you get to the top, there's a great little castle up there, perfect for pictures. You can see out to New Haven. And take yourself on a nice little picture tour of that area. So that's it, everybody. Thanks so much for experiencing around every corner of Connecticut. I really appreciate it. Thank you for coming. And we are such a nice, small, intimate group. If anyone has any questions, just shout them out. About the TV biz, about the state, whatever you want. No? All right.
Well, I'm just gonna add, in New Haven, right, or in a library, you have that rare book library.
I love the Beinecke. The Beinecke is amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I write a little bit about it in the book. Very unique.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think, I worked in Hartford for 18 years, and I've enjoyed being in New Haven. I mean, not to knock Hartford, I went to Trinity and went to college there too. But New Haven is just really alive with culture. It's an exciting place.
You showed that lavender place.
Yeah.
And you said that they blossom all summer, because the place at the Cape I went to once, they cut everything in June, so there's nothing to see in the summer.
Yeah, no, they've got two different kind of lavender, and it pretty much takes them through the season. It takes them June through September, I believe.
Okay.
And there's more information about that in the book.
I went one time after reading about the one at the Cape, and my dad and I went in July, and they cut everything like in June, so all you see are like stalks.
That's too bad. Yeah, no, that's not like this place. And they also have a nice Instagram page and Facebook page, and they'll keep you updated. I had to wait last year for the lavender to bloom, or the year before, to get those good pictures. So they keep you posted on when it's blooming on their social media.
Also, I did see the swallow thing. I did it from the, what do they call themselves? Connecticut, is it the Connecticut Audubon, something or other?
Yeah.
Tour travel people, I forget their name.
Were they out of the River Museum? Was it RiverQuest? No?
No, we went at that park.
Oh, yeah, in
across
East
from
Haddam?
Goodspeed,
Yes. And they brought you down there?
took the boat all the way down the river and then floated around to see the swallows and then took it all back up. And I understand now it just goes out, down in Essex.
Yeah. So my first story was with the Audubon.
The going down was nice. Coming back in the dark was not fun.
We've done it.
Never.
We've done it in our sailboat with like putting the flashlight, like everything all right? So I get it.
Swirl around. It's just amazing.
I know.
As soon as there's some unknown signal, and then boom,
My first story was with the Audubon.
There's nothing.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
And I think they were working with the RiverQuest out of East Haddam, but now the RiverQuest is docked at the Connecticut River Museum, so it's closer. You don't have that long. Yeah, you don't have that long trip back.
Also, when you showed that, I'm getting confused on your lighthouses.
Oh,
The little stone one.
in Stonington.
Why is she doing Norwalk? But apparently,
Oh,
it's
there's
the
a twin,
one in
yeah.
Norwalk. Is it
Sheffield Island and Morgan Point.
I've been there to that one. I didn't even know there was another one.
Yeah.
Or if I did, I've forgotten over time.
Yeah. There's a lot to see in the state. People always say they, learn a little something in the presentation. So thank you guys so much for being here. I will be selling and signing books if anyone's interested. And thank you so much for coming. I really appreciate
Thank you
it.
so much for coming to us.
Thank you. It was fun. Yay.
For over 40 years, SCM has been the voice of our town,
bringing us together through local programming,
education,
and live broadcasts.
SEM isn't just about television.
It's about empowering our community,
ensuring our voices are heard during government meetings,
and celebrating milestones
like our high school graduations.
But today, SEM faces a challenge.
Our funding structure is based on television subscriptions.
And it's no secret, people have been cutting the cord.
With a shift to internet-only subscriptions,
SEM receives less revenue,
even though all our programming is freely available online.
We need your support.
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 Your donation can make a difference.
It will ensure that SCM remains open,
continues to educate our youth,
and keeps our community informed.
Thanks to SCM, I've been honing my creative skills, helping me work towards my college degree.
SCM is crucial for keeping our community connected.
SCM isn't just here to broadcast local events. They're actually preserving Simsbury's history.
Join us in preserving Simsbury's voice.
Simsbury's voice.
Together we can ensure that SCM continues to thrive
for generations to come.
Visit our website
or scan the QR code on your screen to make your donation.
Every contribution
counts.
Thank you for supporting Simsbury Community Media,
where your town,
your schools,
and your government come together.